Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Cobra Productions, here to strike first, strike hard, and show no mercy to Cobra Kai, Season 3, Episode 10, December 19th. The Season 3 finale. What the hey, it only took me 2 years to complete my obligation to the season, which was all I was originally committed to, though I will likely continue along and do more episodes. The episode's description reads as follows. Old wounds begin to heal at a country club Christmas party, but a brutal assault by Kreese's students leads to a new betrayals and alliances. The episode was directed by Josh Hurd, who also serves as executive producer on this series, and the episode was written by Bob Dearden. Before going any further, I will tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, then I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and watch and give me a listen. Secondly, if you like this video and want to support the channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is the first Cobra Kai video of the new year, 2023. And as far as this episode goes, it was disappointing to me back then when I first saw this episode, back on January 1st, 2021, which literally makes this basically 2 years ago that this episode aired, when I finally watched it. It was highly entertaining, but the attack on the Russo house is pretty ridiculous. Throughout the season, they had seemingly tried to add shadings to the character of Tori, giving her some development, for them to throw most of it away in the final episode of the season, reducing her to the boogeyman, Sam's evil boogeyman to be precise. And while the scenes with Allie, Johnny, and Daniel and Amanda are fun, we are treading mostly well-tread ground, and getting to a place that we've already been and done better in prior seasons. And lastly, the final confrontation between Kreese and Johnny, and eventually Daniel, also plays out in a silly fashion, though does lead to what we've all been waiting for, making us anxiously await the team-up of Johnny and Daniel in Season 4. Though, at this point, I don't have to anxiously await anything, I could just queue up the next episode anytime I feel like it, and then watch Season 4 and watch Season 5 again. All that being said, it is highly entertaining, and it's definitely worth the watch. It's just upping the stakes to ludicrous levels that isn't even really in line with the rest of the series. But when we are talking about the stakes being up to ludicrous proportions, none of the season finales have a thing on Season 5's finale. The episode begins with a flashback. Vietnam. Kreese and his commander, plus the other members of his platoon, are in an outdoor Vietnamese prison. Basically just a cage. Actual Terry is in there. We don't know that till the very end. Not Terry died in the previous time that we saw these flashbacks. The guards approach looking to take 2 of the prisoners for life and death combat. Terry tells Kreese that it's all his fault. Kreese tells him the only thing he needs to worry about is survival. And in actual fact, it's Kreese's fault. His commander pipes up to say he's wrong about Terry. He won't survive, but he is right. It is all Kreese's fault. Kreese checks him, saying, hey, come on, man, you're the ranking officer. His commander, played by Terry Serpico, isn't moved. The survivor of Mortal Kombat comes back to tell them that the pit is deep, but that's not the worst part. He doesn't, however, elaborate. We see a close-up of young Kreese, and foreboding music plays. And credits. We cut back to the kitchen at the Asino Oaks Club, which is hosting a party that Daniel and Amanda enter. Johnny hasn't yet arrived, but Daniel is due for another surprise. The return of his high school sweetheart, Allie. They start talking when we see Johnny from Daniel's angle. And soon after, Johnny's cover, which was totally subtle, standing out in the middle of the floor staring at the pair, is blown. Allie thinks it's been a while since the 2 of them have seen each other. Little does she know, when they start trading insults, it becomes apparent to her that she was mistaken. Cut to Sam and Miguel still trying to get Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do to join forces. Chris makes a metaphor that I don't understand, something about wrestling, that the basic point of it is Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do's style is too different. Mitch, wearing an ugly sweater, pipes in and objects to Chris calling him penis breath. Only his Cobra Kai brothers can. Chris asks, why are you okay with anybody calling you penis breath? Fair point, I would say. The question alone sets Mitch to his feet to leave with Bert. But then Dimitri stands up to give his attempt at an inspiring speech. It could use a little work, but nice attempt at channeling Johnny. He basically says that Cobra Kai is the biggest collection of assholes run by the king of asshole and Kreese himself. If merging together would help them prevent being crapped on any longer, then they would be assholes not to do it. If that were a presidential speech, I would totally vote for him. This is enough to get Bert and Mitch to shrug and sit back down. Dimitri asks Miguel and Sam, now where do we start? Back to the Christmas party. Allie is summing up the entire plot of Season 1 to us, though she doesn't bother with Season 2, or this season for that matter. Daniel gets clued in to how Allie and Johnny got to this moment, and his takeaway is that Johnny finally figured out Facebook. Amanda joins them, realizes that she may have stepped into something. If it's Daniel alone for 5 minutes, odds are pretty good that's the case. She realizes that she is in the presence of Daniel's ex-girlfriend, and she's excited by the prospect of talking to her. Every guy's worst nightmare. Allie reveals that she is effectively divorced, and Daniel and Johnny exchange loaded looks, and for a moment they almost look like friends. Amanda wonders if they got to the part of the plot where the two of them have warring karate dojos, which was news to Allie. Back at the house, the warring dojos have made a pretty decent dent in a peace treaty, though I am curious as to why none of them think that the two senseis should be in on this conversation. Bert hears the sound of a cat, and is all like, "Aw, I think your cat wants to come in." Sigh. Bert never seems to learn. We discovered this season that Bert's weakness includes fluffy animals. I mean, I guess that doesn't make him too much different than the standard population. Sam reveals that they don't have a cat, seconds before they hear the sound of shattering glass, and Bert's body landing on the floor with a sickening thud. Oh no! I just witnessed the defenestration of Bert. Defenestration, for those who are not aware, in fact, I wasn't, is the act of throwing someone or someone out of a window. And here I have the opportunity to use that word in a sentence. Miguel in a panic. Bert, what happened? Well, dumbass, as you can clearly see, defenestration happened. And why are you asking him? He clearly has to be dead or dying. Surely there's a piece of glass sticking out of an artery or something. Bert will be dead in minutes as he bleeds out. That must have been one strong cat. Who should walk through the doors but Cobra Kai, including Miguel's mortal enemy, Kyler, and former friend, Hawk. They grab Bert and pull him away. Not sure why they are bothering with the corpse now, but whatever. Bursting through the other door is Tori, and some other random Cobra Kai members looking menacing. Tori announces, "Heard you were throwing a party. Hope you don't mind if I crash." Huh. Tori, do you mind if I steal that one for my next dad joke? I think Bert certainly does, but I guess you didn't care too much about his opinion. Enough so that you defenestrationed him. I'm sure that's not the correct way to use that, but whatever, this is my channel, and I'll use the word however the heck I feel like it. Miguel dramatically says, "Tori, you don't have to do this." "It's too late," Tori announces. "This ends tonight." Okay. How is this going to end tonight? Is your plan to kill them all? Because that's the only way this ends tonight. That's the only way that this doesn't continue on forever and ever and ever. Well, I mean, alright. They could all go to jail. In fact, they all should. All these motherfuckers should be going to jail. Every single one of them. Tori mentioned a couple episodes ago, in fact, I think it might have been the last episode, that breaking into a zoo wasn't a violation of parole. Nor apparently is stealing a cobra. But apparently breaking into someone's house, beating the crap out, and possibly murdering its occupants is totally not a violation of parole either. I will keep that in mind if I'm ever in legal trouble. But I guess either way, she doesn't care, as this is all about the power of jealousy. She heard Sam and Miguel were working together, and despite being 2 seconds from doing Robbie in the back before Kreese informed her of this, seriously, Kreese is the ultimate cockblock here. Tori has to run off to kill everybody. I mean, it seems legit to me. The iffy consequences of Tori and Robbie getting punished for the end of Season 2 is even more ludicrous, as not a single person faces any consequences for their actions here. Amanda's explanation for why not in Season 4 is, well, bullshit. From a big dramatic fight, the beginnings of one anyway, back to a happy, happy Christmas party. Well, it wouldn't be happy for me because I'd be having a miserable time because I can't stand Christmas. But anyway, the foursome are sitting together laughing about the past. Amanda wants to know how he dressed up as a shower while laughing. I don't know. Watch Karate Kid, I guess. Speaking of which, is there no security at the LaRusso home? Nothing to alert them that perhaps the house is being destroyed? These guys are rich, aren't they? But they can't afford a decent security system? I'll get out that point for now. Allie reveals that what we were told in Karate Kid 2 about Daniel and hers breakup was actually false. That she let him believe she was cheating on him because of Daniel's hot-headed nature. But it wasn't at all like Daniel believed it to be. And then it switches to what a bad boyfriend Johnny was, which Daniel couldn't be happier about. Johnny says that maybe, just maybe, their heads were pretty far up their asses back then. Anything changed on that front? Because I'm not really so sure about that. Allie says that she hopes their kids will be more involved than what they were. Oh, little does she know. Back at the LaRusso home, destruction currently in progress. Kyler and Miguel are fighting, but Miguel is not back to peak form. Mitch is holding his own for a while. Dimitri uses the corpse of Bert that's seemingly animated for a dead person to kick someone in the face. And it's all round anarchy, set to an up-tempo version of a Christmas song. Hawk is fighting a random person who is that? It wasn't a member of Eagle Fang, or Miyagi-Do, because they were not in the house before the fight started. Same goes for Tori. Who the hell is she fighting? Doesn't matter because she just spotted Sam. Sam, who isn't over her PTSD, starts to run away. Another random person who, once again, is not Eagle Fang or Miyagi-Do, tries to attack Tori, but she makes quick work of him. So, is Cobra Kai just indiscriminately attacking people, even each other? Is it a fight to death for everybody here? Sam runs into the dojo, and suddenly we're in slow motion. Tori walks in like the boogeyman, and with a crazed look on her face. It's so ridiculously overdone, but fun as hell. Tori picks up a pair of nunchuck, and looks at a fallen Samantha, who she had hoped for more of a fight from. But there's still ways that she could have fun. Oh, I don't like Tori's idea of fun at all. I mean, she's kind of hot and all, but man, she is crazy. Cut back to the Christmas party. Daniel and Johnny keep sniping at each other, getting ready to lead the party. Allie talks like she's making some great insights to the situation, but it's well-trodden ground. It's what we've been able to divine for 3 seasons now, made blatantly obvious. The subtext is now just straight up in the text. This was done way better in prior seasons. Allie and Daniel hug and say goodbye to each other, but not before Allie tells him that the good times far outweigh the bad, and that is how she will always remember things. Daniel says Merry Christmas to Johnny, who returns it. These two men are in for a rude awakening when they get home. Daniel approaches his wife and says, let's go home and get into some trouble. Oh, don't worry, that's being taken care of for you. Back to Tori and Sam fighting. It's pretty one-sided at this point, but a fallen picture of Mr. Miyagi and remembering Daniel's words from earlier in the season helps Sam to get her groove back. She picks up a staff and starts being able to actually defend herself. Meanwhile, Kyler attacks Miguel and quickly gets him to the floor and then celebrates with Hawk, who looks around, seeing Miyagi-Do losing, hearing the words of his various senseis, and probably realizing he's going to jail because of the wanton destruction on display and the murder of Bert, sees Cobra Kai getting Dimitri in another precarious situation where he might get his arm broken. But the random Cobra Kai guy gives Hawk a free shot. So in response, Hawk runs in slow motion towards his former Cobra Kai teammate and takes him out. He approaches Dimitri, who backs slowly away. Hawk says, look man, I'm sorry for all of it. Want to help me win this thing so that I don't go to jail? I mean, he doesn't add that last part, but he probably should, because that's his true motivation here. You can't tell me any differently, honestly. Dimitri smiles and says, yes. Rad moment, completely unearned moment of redemption for Hawk, however. We did see moments of his unease throughout the season, but not enough work was done for this. Still, it's awesome sauce nonetheless. Together they start facing off against Cobra Kai and taking them down one by one, teaming up on one guy. Meanwhile, Miguel is getting the crap beaten out of him by Kyler, who's wailing on the back of a person that isn't too far removed from nearly dying and being paralyzed. You stay classy, Kyler. Miguel's point of view also moves into slow motion. He sees Hawk and Dimitri having made up. He hears Johnny's words in his head, sees clips of him failing throughout the season, and all of a sudden, Miguel is able to defend himself again. He does this crazy backflip thing, and before you know it, Kyler is down for the count. And he says, thanks for the motivation. And believe me, that's not even the corniest line in this episode. Back to the fight with Tori and Samantha. Samantha corners her and says, I'm not afraid of you. In comes Miguel and Hawk to declare it over. Oh, but it will never be over. Okay. What happened to this ends tonight? I guess other than Bert, there wasn't enough casualties in this war. Tori turns to Hawk and declares, traitors! You better watch your back. And Dimitri is all, oh, he won't have to. He'll have friends to do it for him. Oh, snap. Oh, no, he didn't. Back at the Christmas party, Allie and Johnny are leaving. Allie asks Johnny, what's he driving? And he responds, 93 Dodge Caravan. But Allie doesn't believe him. Allie asks about Carmen, and says he better figure out that situation really quick, given the fact that she is a person who can make Johnny Lawrence speechless. Closed the book on the two of them beautifully during the course of this scene. This ending is the best possible ending for this reunion. They hug, and wouldn't you know it, Johnny's vehicle has arrived. He wasn't lying. This little moment made me laugh. The Dodge Caravan that Robbie stole at the beginning of the season is the one he continues to drive. This is probably my favorite moment in this episode, was this goodbye with Allie, and Johnny going to Carmen to tell him that he's figured out that he's in love with her. Only one problem. As soon as she opens the door, we see a bloodied Miguel, and Johnny asks angrily, what happened? And I gotta ask, Miguel just left Samantha and the house the way it was? Just returning home after all that? No police are involved in any of this? It's, ridiculous as usual with this series. We cut to the past. Kreese stands in for Terry and goes up against his commanding officer, who just laughs. His commanding officer decides to tell him that his girlfriend is dead, hoping it'll give him an edge. His commander goes up and looks down into the pit of despair and laughs. Wouldn't you know it, it's a bunch of cobras, and the fight begins. In the present, we have a ridiculously over-the-top music, like we're in a Star Wars movie or something. As Johnny goes to Cobra Kai, he kicks down a door and comes face to face with Kreese, training Robbie. Despondent, Johnny asks, Robbie, what are you doing here? Kreese says that they are all exactly where they belong. 3 generations of Cobra Kai working together. We won't just dominate the tournament, but the entire world. Together, we will rule the galaxy. It will tremble before us. This is not actual dialogue, but man, it's not any more over the top than the actual lines. Palpatine Kreese tells Johnny it's really his last chance. Is he in, or is he out? Robbie Vader says, listen to him, Dad. He wants what's best for us. And in response, Johnny goes for some kicking action. We cut between the present and the past. Kreese is currently losing in both of them. Palpatine Kreese says, is that all you got? While cackling evilly. Good, young Lawrence. Good. Let the hate flow through you. Johnny gets flung into the wall and picks up a weapon, specifically a sai, which was Raphael's favorite weapon. But his son tells him not to do it, so he quickly drops it. The fight resumes, with Johnny pummeling away at Kreese, but Robbie steps in the way, pushes him, pulls him away from Kreese. You don't understand, Johnny says. You can't trust him. But the thing is, Robbie can't trust him either. He goes on to describe what a shitty father Johnny was. Robbie Vader says, Kreese is right. I can't be my own enemy, but you can be. And, for all the underacting Tanner Buchanan has done throughout the season, this line is just so over the top, it's not even funny in his line reading. I mean, actually, I take that back. It is very funny. Robbie goes on the attack. Johnny is using his defense-only karate, trying not to hurt his son, begging him to stop, but Robbie won't. Robbie declares him weak, and even while only defending himself and dodging, he still manages to knock Robbie out when he flings him into a locker. Johnny goes to his fallen son, but doesn't notice Kreese get up. Uh-oh. In the past, his commander tells him, I tried to tell you, it's kill or be killed out here, but you refuse to shed your humanity, and now you're gonna die. As Kreese hangs near the pit, he grabs onto some kind of bar, and suddenly has the upper hand. The commander hangs by a thread over the pit of doom. In the present day, Kreese takes advantage of Johnny's distraction, and hits him with a sigh, and knocks him to the ground. In the past, help has come. The Americans are here. Explosions are going off. They are all free. His commander hangs off the ledge. There's no more reason to fight, as they are about to be rescued. His commander begs him to pull him up, orders him, but Kreese says, no mercy, and kicks his commander's hands, and he falls into the pit of doom to be eaten by cobras and to die. In the present day, Kreese gloats over a downed Johnny. Palpatine Kreese says, I thought there was still hope for you, and then he begins to choke Johnny. This is not how I wanted it to end. Wait a fucking second here. Are you really intending to kill Johnny here? How in the ever-loving fuck do you think you're going to get away with this? This is where the stakes get up to ridiculous levels really quickly. It's suddenly become a matter of life and death, which is just, the series just generally does not do. It'll do it during the finales, but in the rest of the episodes, it's a completely different series. But as Kreese is choking the life out of Johnny, wouldn't you know it, who comes to save the day but Daniel, who kicks Kreese off of him and then shouts, You sent them to my house? Okay, who feels majorly gypped that we did not get the scene where Daniel comes to his house destroyed and bodies laying all over the place? I know that I'm raising my hand. I sure hope that you are too, because man, I really wanted to see that scene. But we're never going to get it. Daniel says, You wanted a fight? Now you got one, you son of a bitch. Meanwhile, Daniel notices Robbie laying on the ground, which is kind of odd in the moment, but whatever. Palpatine Kreese says, I told you this was inevitable, and the fight is on. Kreese puts Daniel through a window and grabs a shard. Palpatine Kreese says, Time for you and Miyagi to reunite. What the actual fuck? But Daniel remembers Chosen's words from earlier in the season, and remembers the pressure point technique. He uses it on Kreese. And as Kreese finds that he can't move, they are joined by Johnny, who gives Daniel a nod. It's time to kill Kreese. But then Miguel and Sam join them, so he does not in fact go through with the cold-blooded murder. Not because it's wrong or anything, he was totally cool with doing it. He just didn't want Miguel and Samantha to witness it. It's just a bad example for the kiddies and all, All he says is, you better keep Cobra Kai away from our kids. And Kreese stands and says, it's a free country. Oh, touche. Johnny chimes in and says, it isn't for him. Cobra Kai has to go for good. Kreese says, why don't we settle this the old-fashioned way? Oh? Duel at high noon? A sword fight? Maybe a joust? Nope, Kreese means a tournament. Well, that's hardly the old-fashioned way, Kreese. It's downright civilized, in fact, especially since you were about to fucking kill both Johnny and Daniel not that long ago. If Kreese loses, he goes, but if they both lose, they shut down. Johnny says they won't lose. Sam joins her father, and Miguel joins his sensei. Robbie wakes up in time, and both Daniel and Johnny look conflicted. But Robbie has made up his mind. Kreese is his sensei now, his father figure. All Johnny can do is look pained. Kreese grabs the door, and we cut to the past. Kreese lets out his fellow soldiers from captivity. Terry thanks him with a hug and says, "Anything you need for the rest of your life, I will be here for you. You hear me, Johnny? For the rest of your life." Well, it's not like he's going to regret those words or anything. Present day, Kreese picks up a phone and says, "Long time." We don't know who he's calling, but we have a pretty good idea that it's going to be Terry Silver. We hear a dramatic song and cut to Daniel at the dojo. He looks out at his Miyagi-Do students, and then we see Miguel enter, soon followed by Hawk and the rest of Eagle Fang. Hawk and Dimitri reunite as friends, as do Mitch and Chris. Bert, looking pretty good for a dead zombie, and Nathaniel. Hey, Nathaniel, did you in fact go to his funeral, or did you skip that? I'm just asking, because you said earlier that if he died, you would not go to his funeral. So I'm just kind of curious if you held to your word on that one. Finally, Johnny enters. Daniel looks at him. They bow to the students, and then bow to each other. Former enemies allied at last. Daniel says to his students, "Ready?" And Johnny follows it up with, "Let's begin." And that, ladies and gentlemen, ends Season 3. The finale, ridiculous in a lot of ways, disappointing, though undeniably a fun watch. And that last scene gave me chills. It's what we've been waiting for 3 seasons now. Johnny and Daniel finally teaming up. And thus, this fulfills my commitment to Season 3 of this series. Oh, but don't worry, having found a groove with this series, I will probably keep going. But as for now, that is all I got for this podcast. If you like this podcast and want to support the channel, you can follow me on Twitter. You can join my Corman Productions Facebook page. You can buy something from the Corman Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy, which is a new way to support content creators such as myself. And of course, you can like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Corman Productions, signing off.